Hey guys, so in this week's episode, I want to talk about my favorite coffee variety, which is the Geisha. The reason why I love the Geisha so much is because of its beautiful floral notes and often tea-like mouthfeel as well as aroma. As a matter of fact, many would argue that you do not need to be a coffee snob in order to differentiate the Geisha from other coffees. And this was certainly the case for me when I had my first Geisha back in 2017. But before anything, let's get this episode started. Since I fell in love with this variety, I have always looked forward to a good Geisha release on an annual basis, and I often purchase multiple boxes from multiple roasters just to try all of them out. And recently, both Counterculture as well as XICups came up with their Colombian Geisha release. So naturally, I purchased both of them. Just to clarify, the coffee I'll be using today will not be from these two particular boxes, as these are still freshly roasted and I'm letting them sit there for another week or so. So Geisha actually originated in Ethiopia, and it was identified and brought to Costa Rica in the 1930s. And later on, the cultivation spread to the Panamas in the 1950s to 1960s. These beans rose to high popularity in 2004 in the Best of Panama competition, where the now famous Hacienda La Esmeralda blew away the competition. During that year, a pound of Panama Gesha sold for $21. As in reference, the most expensive coffee sold during that time was $4.80 a pound. Since then, the price per pound of Geisha has only gone upwards to $661 in 2017, $803 in 2018, and finally broke 4 digits in 2019 at a whopping price of $1,029 per pound, and followed by $1,300 in 2020. Of course, these numbers really represent the best of the Geisha variety from Panama. However, since then, the coffee has spread to many other South American countries, including Honduras, Colombia, El Salvador, and Guatemala, many of which are much more affordable, but in my opinion, just as delicious. As a matter of fact, besides the Panama Gesha, one of the more popular choices are actually from Colombia, which both of these roasts are from. The reason why Panama Geishas receive such high praise is due to its very unique microclimate. The Panama Geishas are actually grown on a very high altitude, in a volcanic soil that is very rich in calcium and potassium, and combined with the very special geographic location of Panama, where there is a narrow distance between ocean to ocean, means these beans are exposed to both the winds from the Pacific as well as the Caribbean. And this leads to its famous floral as well as tea-like notes. So the name of the variety is also under a lot of discussion as well as confusion, as it is both spelled Geisha with an I as well as Gesha interchangeably. This is largely due to the fact that there aren't a direct translation from the dialects of Ethiopia to English. So at the time, the spelling was made based on how the word sounded. However, the mountain region where these beans originated are called Geisha, and the name Geisha are currently used specifically to refer to those beans from the Panamas, as some argue that the Panama beans are actually unique on its own right. But many others believe that these beans should be called Geisha and not Geisha at all, because this leads to the misconception that these beans are named after the traditional Japanese entertainer. And given the exotic nature and the notes of this bean, it's not hard to see why many would draw the connection this way. As a matter of fact, when I first purchased these beans without knowing anything about it, I thought these beans actually came from Asia. And as it has grown in popularity in the recent years, even in Asia, it's most often referred to as Geisha in a direct translation. It's not until I read up more into it that I realized that this is actually a common misnomer, because it was spelled with an I when it was initially brought to the South Americas. I am not gonna get into the conversation on how the Japanese geishas were sexualized and exoticized by the Western culture, and hence many would prefer to romanticize this variety in the same way. However, I do agree that the name should be pronounced Geisha to identify its origin and not further contribute to the confusion. And many roasters are choosing to spell the name without the I. However, like I mentioned before, a lot of the Panama varieties still do spell them with an I. Just know that they are technically referring to the same variety. So with that said, I do want to share with you guys something really special that I've kept around. This is actually the first Geisha that I've ever purchased, and it was from Counterculture. And this one in particular comes from Finca El Puente in Honduras. Many of you might actually be familiar with this particular lot, but when I first saw that Counterculture released this particular coffee back in 2017, I was very intrigued and curious about it because of the note that they listed. This one in particular, they listed as lemon blossom, stone fruit, and tea-like. And it's the exact note of tea-like that made me really want to try it out, even though it was quite a bit more expensive at only 4 ounces per bag. But as you can see, I fell in love with the coffee immediately, so much so that I decided to keep the box as well as a few of the leftover beans. It was just such an eye-opening and significant moment for me in coffee that I wanted to keep this box to remember it by. And I know this might seem silly to you guys, but all in all, I believe if you're a coffee lover, you should really give Geisha a try. I would really recommend that you guys get it in a very light roast, as that will really bring out and highlight the notes. As for brew methods, the most recommended way to enjoy Geisha is via pour-over, black, without adding any extra sugar or milk. However, often I've had them as lattes and I find them to be just as delicious. Alright guys, I hope you find this episode to be informative, and if you guys want to read up more into this very special variety, I'll leave some articles down below in the description. For now, I'm gonna go ahead and wait patiently for another week or so until I can finally try these beans. And I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section down below on what is some of your most favorite coffee varieties. As always, if you have not subscribed to our channel yet, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button. And of course, like and share if you find my content to be helpful. That's it for this episode, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye. Hey, thanks for sticking around till the end. So this week, we actually went to a arcade and we came across this plushie in a cream machine. It's actually a character from this Japanese series called the Sumiko Gurashi. We saw that this was coffee themed and we immediately knew that we had to have it. Long story short, about $15 or $20 later, we finally got this and thought that this might look nice in video. Anyway, just figured to share this with you guys that stuck around. All right, bye again.